This may just look like an ordinary college dorm room to you, but for me it's much more than that. It was kind of my first ministry training ground where God took me from having a page 23 vision about making a difference and having an impact on my world and showed me how to translate that into action and to really embrace an audacious ministry. This is the exact college dorm where we had what I call the Ramen Noodle Revival, where we basically fed an entire floor of football players and led many of them to Christ and discipled them. And I can't think of a better place to show you the background of my faith formation as it relates to really launching out, taking what I have and making a difference for God, and hopefully helping you start to think about how you can take what you have, even if it doesn't seem to be much, and making a tremendous difference as God multiplies it through your audacious faith. See, the idea here is that every Christian is called to a full-time ministry, regardless of your vocation, regardless of whether or not you feel like you have the right gifts. God has wired you to make a difference in the world in the unique way that He created you to contribute that no one else can. And what I love about this setting is that it proves that you don't have to have a ministry title or a degree to make a difference. This is my freshman year of college. I'm in a dorm room. I head out, I buy a bag of groceries, and over the course of several months of consistently loving people, I have the opportunity to share Christ with them. Now, begin to think about what the audacious ministry initiative God is calling you to might look like. But as you think about it, I don't want you to think in terms of something you might do one day. I want you to think in terms of how God might use you today, where you are. Remember, in the book I talk about igniting the ordinary. I use the example of the burning bush, which we all think was a dramatic, explosive encounter with God, with pyrotechnics, and certainly it had to be pretty cool to see a bush that caught on fire, but yet it wasn't burning up. However, this scene occurred in the middle of mundane circumstances. And I know that as you've been reading the book and as you've been praying these prayers about God, show me my opportunity for audacity, it can be very hard to trace the hand of God in a situation that seems painfully normal. I call this the ache of the ordinary, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I love Jesus. I want to make a difference for God, but I'm stuck and there's no opportunity for burning bushes around me. But I would suggest to you that if you open your eyes, bushes are probably burning right where you are. The presence of God is certainly already active in your particular situation. It's just a matter of you deciding to embrace your ordinary life with an audacious approach. When we think of audacious faith, we tend to think of certain activities that are audacious. If you go on a mission trip to a third world country, that's audacious. But if you just go to work every day, there's no audacity in that. And you get into survival mode and you start to really give up on the hope of ever doing anything noteworthy or remarkable for the cause of Christ. I want to flip your mentality a little bit. And I want you to see that audacious faith and sun stand still prayers are not necessarily about the type of activity you're doing, but about the way you approach every activity. See, the power of audacious faith is that you can approach all aspects of your life with audacity. Even your family. Let's say your marriage right now is in a place of stagnation, or your marriage is in a place of struggle. By embracing audacious faith in your marriage and beginning to love your wife as Christ loves the church, or as a wife beginning to support your husband and speak life into him and to affirm him, I believe that God will perform miracles in your marriage and will begin to show the world what a marriage ignited by the power of Christ looks like. Maybe in raising your kids, you're struggling to give them a countercultural, Christ-centered worldview. Well, if you approach raising your kids as a mundane activity that really yields no possible results and is completely divorced from your spiritual life, then you're never going to see the tangible presence of God. But if you'll begin to raise your family in a way that looks completely different and otherworldly than the way kids are raised by families that don't know Christ, I think you'll begin to see stuff in your family that will change bloodlines and will mark your world for Christ for generations because of your impact. The thing I want you to begin to think about and to discuss and to begin to explore at a deep level is, what has God put in my hands to make a difference in my world? What ordinary bush can He ignite with His presence and His power to show the world who He is through me? In my life, that happened with ramen noodles and mountain lightning. Remember, when you're in college, you're completely broke, dirt poor. So you can't afford Mountain Dew. You work what you've got, which for me was mountain lightning and ramen noodles. And we had a ramen noodle revival. We saw many people come to Christ. We saw God do great things. And it started with cheap food that isn't good for you at all. I was thinking about the biblical miracle in Matthew 14 and John chapter 6, when Jesus fed 5,000 men and women and children, and how ordinary that day was on the surface from the disciples' perspective. It's just another day. We're facing a problem. It's a catastrophe, in fact. We don't even have enough food to feed all these people. 5 loaves, 2 fish. And Jesus takes that ordinary resource, that ordinary situation, and creates an extraordinary moment that the disciples would never forget. I've never seen fish and loaves multiplied, but I have seen ramen noodles used for the glory of God. What are your ramen noodles? What is your mountain lightning? What has God put in your hands? How can you work what you've got? Has He placed you in a vocation where many of the people do not know Christ? Maybe by showing kindness, doing work with integrity, and beginning to strategize about how you can represent Jesus and be the image of God in that workplace. You could begin to wake up in the morning with an audacious approach. God, set a bush on fire today. Show me someone that I can minister to. Show me a way that I can make inroads to the hearts of people who need you. Or maybe what God is going to put in your hands will be more abstract than that. Maybe it will be a financial setback that on the surface doesn't seem like an opportunity for audacity at all. But think about the fact that everybody around you is watching how you as a Christian handle your financial setback as compared to how the world worries and panics and freaks out. And maybe you could approach something as ordinary and even on the surface as counterproductive as a financial setback with audacious faith. And as you pray this sun stand still prayer and see God multiply your finances and keep your heart at peace, you will be an example of old school audacious faith to all the people around you. There's something in your hands. What is it? There's a bag of groceries that God is calling you to distribute so that you can become a processing center for the miracles of God to everyone around you. I really do want you to answer this question before the end of the day, before you journey any more into this process of audacious faith. What has God put in my hands, and how can I offer it to Him with an audacious approach toward my life for His glory?